I was seriously debating on not filming a video today because of this bad boy. He's so big and he's underground and I can't get him away. So we're going to ignore the mountain on my face. It's fine, I'm a human, I get zits every once in a while. My skin's actually not doing too hot right now, but that's okay. I have an announcement, and I feel like it's kind of a pointless announcement, but I also feel like it's not pointless, like I kind of have to tell you guys. But I'm going back to Arizona for a month. So basically this is going to be my last video in my apartment just for right now. As you guys know, I've said this 5 million times, I've been having a rough time recently, and I think going home and being with my family will help me a lot right now. I'm still going to be uploading and I'm still going to be streaming. I'm going to have the exact same schedule, but I'm just going to be in Arizona instead. So that's my quick announcement. I'm pretty sure this is the last video in my apartment that you guys are seeing. I can't remember if I have another video planned for me to film before I go, but I leave Texas on November 2nd and I actually don't have a return date yet, so I have no idea when I'm coming back to Yeehaw. I just miss my family, okay? But I have a lot of videos planned for Arizona because, like I said in one of my recent videos, there's the haunted hotel in Flagstaff that I really want to stay at. I might go to California for a little bit because it's a really short drive, so I could always do something there as well. I'm gonna go see Kayla, I'm gonna see Brittany, I'm gonna see Paige. I'm pumped. But anyways, this is not about my life. It's been a while since I've read Let's Not Meet stories, and I wanted to read some Stalker stories today because apparently my video from the other day didn't scare me enough as it was, the social media stalker. My phone's on 10%, and I didn't realize that, so we're gonna see if my phone dies during the video. It'll be like a fun game. I thought I dropped her. So I found the first story I want to read and it sounded really interesting, and it says, I've had a stalker for 13 years. And I was like, what the fuck? We're gonna go through this one, see how long she is, read a couple more, we'll be done for the day. Okay, so they said, I met my stalker when I was in middle school. My school consisted of 7th grade through 12th grade and had a normal program and an accelerated program, with the students in each program being pretty segregated. My friends and I belonged to the accelerated program, but there was one guy in the group from the normal program, Carson. All in all, we were typical teenagers, with Carson being the group's prankster. We could only hang out at school because we were all shipped in from various parts of the county for the accelerated program, so after school we would all get on AOL to chat and play games. Online we had even more friends, as we'd invite our own local friends to also chat with us. One day, Carson invited his friend Steve to join the chat. He was nice, and he contributed to a lot of the conversations. We learned Steve actually attended our school, but he was in the normal program and had a different lunch period than the rest of us, so we had almost no chance of crossing paths. We insisted on meeting him, however, and scheduled for Steve to come to my locker before first period. The next morning we waited and Steve never came. My friends and I did have a short exchange with another kid, Marco, which consisted of us telling him to go away. Marco had been Carson's satellite since the beginning of the year. Wherever Carson went, Marco would stand 10 to 15 feet away, just watching us. We had tried being friends with him, but he was simply too strange for us. He would touch your face unexpectedly, or try and sneak up behind you to bite you, or tell you he wanted to see you inside out. His list of strange behaviors was a mile long. What the actual fuck? A few days after Steve failed to come meet us, it came to light that Steve was really Marco and that the whole thing was one of Carson's pranks. Considering Marco had been a pleasant addition to the chat as Steve, we gave him another chance to join the real group. Besides Carson, I was the only person that really gave Marco a chance. He still did the really weird things he had always been doing, but it was now apparent that it was all an act to get attention for being the weird guy. Marco was being abused at home by his mom's boyfriend. He rarely saw his mom because she worked so much. Marco was the poster child for bad attention is still attention. Still, my friends wanted him out of the group, and I repeatedly found myself arguing his case to let him stay. Once I caught an older student, a boy that lived on my street, beating Marco up. Being much larger than either of us, he was literally picking Marco up and slamming him into the lockers while he called him a freak. I hate humans. I hate people. Knowing the bully and his mother, I did my signature move at the time and kicked him in the balls while threatening to tattle to his parents about how he was treating me and my friends. Yes, bitch, as queen. I believe this was the catalyst for years of torment, as Marco became my satellite after that day. At school, Marco followed me any chance he got. At home, Marco messaged me non-stop, typically in private chat, as my other friends wanted nothing to do with him. I felt bad because he was a sweet kid besides his attention-seeking stunts, and nobody should have to go through life with no friends. Eventually Marco asked me out, which I politely declined. He was my friend, but he wasn't the type of guy I would ever be interested in dating. He was persistent, begging me to give him a chance. Over and over again I would have to tell him no. One day his approach changed. You will go out with me or I'll show your mom all of our chat logs. There was nothing especially bad in the logs. I wasn't drinking or doing drugs or anything really bad. But I was pretty depressed at the time and sometimes talked about wanting to kill myself. If my parents saw that, I could effectively kiss my freedom and privacy goodbye. I bluffed him, telling him good luck with any attempts to convince my parents to believe him over me, which seemed to work. I wasn't very impressed with the stunt and stopped talking to him. A few weeks went by and Marco came crawling back, begging for forgiveness. I eventually caved, allowing him back into the group. At first, he was well behaved, but slowly started pestering me to be his girlfriend. Over the course of high school, he tried many different methods: begging, blackmailing, attacking my self-esteem, you're ugly, you're a slut, catfishing, threatening any guys I dated, threatening suicide, and more. Oh my god. I tried to be nice at first, but eventually had to get pretty mean in how I said no. His behavior would always reach a boiling point that forced me to cut him out of our friend group. It was nearly impossible to get rid of him, however. Online, he would create dozens of new accounts to send messages from, overwhelming my attempts to block him. He would call my phone all night long and leave woeful messages about how lonely he was and how he would kill himself if I stopped being his friend. This is so manipulative and so insane. And like, we're not even close to being done. He would show up at my house and stand outside my bedroom window randomly. When my parents had parties, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Halloween, etc., he always managed to find out and show up. Oh my god. Their parties were always pretty big with an open door policy, so he'd slip in, typically in disguise. He'd then ultimately do something to get thrown out, like get belligerently drunk, I don't know if I can say that word, or stuff his face with finger foods and then put them back on the serving platters. It's fucking gross. The first time I really felt that Marco might actually be a threat was at one of my parents' Halloween parties when we were 16. I forgot how young they were. Holy shit. Can you imagine someone doing this to you when you're that young? Like, knowing how to be that manipulative? One of my dad's friends had a son our age, Tim, that was a bit of a jerk. He fancied himself pretty cool and thought it would be fun to pick a fight with the weird kid to make a display of his own superior strength. Marco accepted the challenge. We all knew he was about to get the crap beat out of him. Going out into the street, Tim towered over Marco. That year, Marco was dressed as Alex from A Clockwork Orange, his favorite book, and his costume including a cane. He swung the cane at Tim, beating him in the head with it. Tim went down quickly, and Marco beat him until an adult intervened and sent him home. Marco's go-to threat whenever I had a boyfriend was, I'll beat him to death with a shovel and then use it to bury his body. Suddenly, his threat seemed like something he'd be capable of. Our senior year of high school, Marco's dad died in prison. He learned the real reason his dad was in prison was for murdering somebody. He'd always thought his dad was in there for drugs, and Marco started to spiral out of control. He said his dad was a murderer, so he must also be doomed to be a murderer. He dropped out of school halfway through the year. I gotta go. I actually left to get a Diet Coke, but I'm back. My brother said after I'd left home for college, Marco came to the house looking for me a few times. Once he figured out I wasn't there, he would just come and stand in the front yard aimlessly, playing with a big lighter until someone threatened to call the police. One of my biggest worries was that he would try to set their house on fire in some weird way of punishing me. Like, what did you do to even deserve to be punished? Punished. When I'd go home with my boyfriend, he'd always show up at my parents' house. At one point, he tried to intimidate my boyfriend into breaking up with me by showing him he had a hunting knife. It was always a big ordeal getting him to leave. A lot of the issues have now eased up due to time and distance. I don't use much social media anymore, and I'm able to semi-block people on my phone. It's a bit weird. I can see when a blocked number tries to call me, but it doesn't ring, and I'm able to receive voicemails and text messages from blocked numbers, but not pictures. Initially, he was calling and texting every day, hundreds of messages. I tried asking him to stop, but that only encouraged him. My family no longer lives in that area, so I'm significantly less worried for their safety. I found the most successful way of dealing with Marco is simply ignoring him. Eventually, his messages dwindled down to once a week, then once a month, and now maybe I hear from him once a year. His message is typically something along the lines of, please just be my friend, I won't try anything more, I just need you in my life. The last time I actually talked to him, which was about 4 to 5 years ago now, Marco tried to tell me I'd ruined his life. He said I put some spell on him that he couldn't move forward with life. He told me he would kill himself and it would be my fault. I finally had to tell him that I wouldn't care if he killed himself. In fact, it would be a relief. That's so sad. Like, I get that, like, you'd have to, like, tell him that just, I guess, to get him to stop threatening you with it. It gets so sad that it even got to that point. His most recent MO is to call my workplace from a private number just to hear me answer the phone and then hang up. It's so gross. He also calls and texts my brother, our high school friends, my brother's best friend, my parents, my grandparents, my aunt, and my husband to beg them to ask me to call him. Marco messaged my husband, tell her she is my angel, the love of my life. I am nothing without her. Oh my god. I worry he will snap someday and show up at my house or my job to kill me. I have security systems and other means of protection, but I still get paranoid about it. I've talked to the police about getting a restraining order, but they've told me there's no real grounds unless he starts showing up and threatening to kill me. So I guess we'll see what happens. That is the most ridiculous story I have ever heard. I actually think that's one of like the most extensive stalker stories ever. I feel like most of the stalker stories we've read, you don't really interact with them too often, or like they didn't really interact with them. But this is like constant interaction over the 13 years. Like it's just like always weighing heavy on you. Whereas I feel like a lot of people don't even know what's happening until a couple years later or like a couple months later. You know what I mean? Okay, let's find some more. Ew, okay, this one says, creepy guy wanted me down in the school's basement. Some of these stories just have the grossest titles and I'm like, I can't even imagine what the fuck this is gonna be about. I guess that's the fun in it though. Can I say fun? It's probably not fun. I guess that's like, I don't know what word I'm looking for. You know what I mean? This happened many years ago and I don't remember it myself, but my mom told me about it and it really creeps me out. I was either in first, second, or third grade when this happened, and I'm gonna need a lot of backstory of my school. So you can picture I was a little kid. The school has their own blocks for different grades. First to third grade are in their own blocks called the AB blocks. The rest of the blocks, named C, D, and E, etc., had their own drama, theater, studio in the basement. The AB block was in no way allowed to go into the studio unless the older kids had a play going on. No adults would let us down there. With that being said, here's the story. I walked to school, and when I got there, a man I didn't know at all asked me for help in the basement. I have 2 older brothers who went to the same school, so I knew every teacher at the time, and they knew me, but I didn't know this guy. That was the first alert. Second alert, he asked me for help. I was in the AB block, aka kids are the last people you would ask for help. Third alert, we were under no circumstances allowed in the basement when there was no play going on. I ran to the nearest group of kids, my mom told the school, and the school did nothing about it. Creepy guy, I don't remember. We probably met again because I don't remember your face. Wait, what the fuck? I mean, that was like the whole story, but what the fuck? It was somebody was like best ending ever and possibly by far the creepiest part as well. Yeah, wait, that's terrifying. Can you imagine somebody doing that to you? Like somebody trying to get you into the basement for God knows why. And like you don't even know who they are. So like later on in life, you could have ran into them again, or they ask you for help again and you don't even recognize them. That's creepy as shit. And the person who originally posted it was like, I can't decide whether that's good or bad. No one has any idea who he even was, especially since the lousy school never took it seriously to begin with. Why would an elementary school not care that there's a random man asking kids to go into their basement? I don't understand. My elementary school is like super lockdown central. Like they have gates surrounding the whole school. There's only one entrance for guests. Like if you want to get in here, you have to like go through the office, you have to sign in. Like it's not even funny. Like nobody can get into the campus. Nobody. I guess depending on how old they are, this was a long time ago, so that would make more sense because it wasn't like that before. But it's still terrifying that they did nothing about it. Oh shit, this one says, I think I was almost kidnapped or worse. The thing about this camera is it's the exact same as my old one, and she's gonna stop recording. I completely understand why cameras have to do that, because if you start recording for like a prolonged period of time, it's like, okay, enough. But like, shut the fuck up, let me talk, okay? She's like, my camera's telling me to shut the fuck up. They said, hello, I'm a first-time poster. I'm 22 and I'm a female. While reading some stories, I remembered this story that happened to me a long time ago and it still scares me to this day. I was about 15 at the time. Being young and dumb, I always snuck out at night to meet with my friends. This time though, I was talking to a guy I didn't really know. I never met him in person. So I decided to meet with him at night at an elementary school maybe 1.5 miles away from my house. I had no car or license at this time, so I walked. This all just sounds like a horrible setup to the situation. I ended up meeting with him for about an hour. I got pretty spooked and just ended up telling him I was gonna go back home because I was cold. He was very nice and offered to walk me back home, but I said no because he lived right next to the school and I figured I'd be fine. This is the creepy part. I took a different way home because I'd been caught by the cops a handful of times and didn't want that to happen again. Let me paint a picture for you. I'm walking in a neighborhood on the sidewalk, houses on both sides of me and cars parked everywhere. There was an RV parked almost 10 feet away from me at this point. All of a sudden I hear this really loud music and men being really loud behind me. I look back and there's a little truck coming down the street, music loud as hell, with a driver, passenger, and about 3 men in the back of the truck. They look like high school football players. They drive past me, catcalling me right when I'm getting to the RV, so now they can't see me because of the RV. I then hear screeching of tires and I knew I was in trouble. My vision at this point is starting to fade a little because I was scared out of my mind. The truck comes to a stop and all I can think of doing is crawling under the RV, so that's what I do. Wait, that's actually so smart. I would never think to, I would just like either freeze or start sprinting and then just fuck myself over. I see many feet running to where I was just standing on the other side of the RV. One of the guys says, where did she go? My heart is literally about to pop out of my chest. Oh my god, I don't know what I would do. I'm holding my breath because I feel like they can hear me. Another guy says, everyone shut up for a second. Then it's silent for what feels like hours, but it's probably only a few seconds. Then the first guy says, get in the truck, she's probably in the next neighborhood. They run back to the truck, making random weird noises and peel out. At this point, I waste no time. I get out from underneath and bolt as fast as I can back to my house, inside the window, close my window, get into bed and start to cry. It's 4:30 in the morning now. My dad will be up at 5 a.m. for work. I couldn't sleep at all. I never snuck out again. Thinking about it now, I'm not sure if they were drunk or in their right mind. I honestly don't ever want to find out what would have happened if they caught me. I literally can't with you guys. I mean, okay, this isn't one of you guys, but you know what I mean. Everyone's so crazy and so rebellious. Like, this is why I don't do this shit, because I'm scared of this. I walk outside now and it's like bright outside and I'm like, someone's gonna kidnap me. I think I've told you guys 5 million times I'm just like scared of humans, but it's fine. And read one more. Jesus fucking Christ. This one says I almost got kidnapped and stabbed under a bridge. What is with all these kidnapping stories? So this happened a few weeks ago. I'm in college and on Fridays I have a class on my school's other campus. It's in a bit of a sketchier area of the city. I commute to school and there's a safe way to get to the campus that involves a 45-minute bus ride, a transfer, and then a 25-minute bus ride. People leave me alone! There's a slightly more sketchier way that involves a 20-minute train ride and then a 10-minute walk. For reference, I'm a female, and I know I shouldn't, but I usually opt for the sketchier way since it's much quicker. For part of that 10-minute walk, I have to walk under a bridge. It's a really nasty place. It always smells like sewage, eggs, meat, and shit. Good combo. I found out after this that they've discovered bodies under there before, so yeah, definitely not the safest place to walk. There's a narrow strip of sidewalk that isn't covered in trash and shit that you could walk on. It really truly is a nasty place. That particular Friday, I'd woken up late and I was rushing to get to class. I was under the bridge, speed walking towards campus, when I saw a guy from my class walking in the opposite direction. He motioned for me to take my headphones out. Yeah? I asked. Class is canceled today. The professor left a note on the door. This immediately struck me as a little weird. The professor told us to come on time last week since he'd be reviewing something that he had been basing the entire midterm around. He was also supposed to assign us a paper that day too. I figured he'd at least email us to tell us class was canceled, since he stressed attendance last week. But I saw no reason for the guy from my class, whose name I don't even know actually, to lie about it. That sucks. I ran from my house to the train station to get here and class is canceled. I thought he was going to be doing something really important today. Yeah, he responded, and then immediately followed up with, hey, you live in my town, right? I live in his town. Do you need a ride home? This was because they didn't insert the actual town. It wasn't totally weird that he knew what town I lived in. I may have mentioned it during class on the first day of school when it was like the get to know you shit. But it did strike me as weird that he remembered it. I knew where his town was, and it was super far from mine, at least a 40-minute drive, so I said, oh thanks, but you live really far from me, so it's fine. I think I'm just gonna go to the library and study. I'll see you next week. I tried to brush past him, but he grabbed my hand. I flinched and pulled it away as quick as I could. Come on, let me give you a ride home. Seriously, it's not far. His town is right next to my town. Nope, I'm gonna go study. Leave me alone. I just want to give you a ride home. My car's around the corner. Let me drive you home. I'd be like, bitch, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to ride. Everything about this was beyond creepy now. I didn't know why he wasn't parked on campus. I didn't know if my class was actually canceled or not. I did have an idea of why he wanted me in his car so badly, and it wasn't a good one. I began reaching for the pepper spray in the side of my backpack. I wanted to spray him and sprint to campus. I just wanted to get away from under the bridge. Before I could pepper spray the guy from class, this homeless man shouted a racial slur at him from under the bridge, followed by, where's my fucking cash? The guy from my class went pale and pushed me onto the ground. I froze. Sure, I'd be raped or something, but he just ran in the opposite direction. Holy fucking plot twist. I was still facing the homeless man and I saw him pull out a switchblade, and that's when I started absolutely booking it to campus. The homeless man probably wouldn't have caught up to me even if I had walked. He was covered in a layer of dirt and I thought I saw him limping, but my fight or flight kicked in when I saw the blade come out. As soon as I got to campus, I flagged down one of the police officers there and told them what had happened. They called it into the city police department. Since it didn't happen on campus, they couldn't really do anything about it except keep an eye out near the entrances, and told me to start taking the long way to school. I told the city police department about the experience and had to answer a bunch of their questions, but in the end, no real crime had occurred, so all they could do was tell me to start taking the long way to school too. They walked me to the lecture hall where, surprise surprise, there was, indeed, class. With the officer, I told my professor what had happened, and he told me that the guy that had tried getting me into his car had dropped the class 2 weeks prior to that class's session. I have a lot of questions about the whole thing that will probably never get answered. I know why the guy from class probably wanted me in his car, and it gives me goosebumps. I do wonder what happened between him and the homeless man to make the homeless man go after him with a knife, or what he owed him money for. The one thing that really does skeeve me out about the whole thing is the fact that the cars were driving by the entire time I was under the bridge. Cars were driving by when the guy grabbed my hands and I pulled it away. Cars were driving by me when he pushed me onto the ground. And cars were driving by when the homeless guy pulled out a knife. I asked one of the city cops if anybody besides me had called it in, and they said no. I don't know if they didn't see what was happening or if it really just was the bystander effect, but it does really unsettle me that nobody stopped to offer help. I don't think anybody slowed down to check on what was happening either. So creepy guy from my class that tried to lure me into his car and helpless man with a knife, I have a pepper spray keychain now, so yeah. Let's not meet. I said this with my apartment tour video, but it's so scary, like how little strangers give a fuck about you. Like when my neighbors were fighting in my hallway, I was like, okay, this sounds really bad, so I called the police because just in case anything happened, I don't know, I wanted them here. Things didn't sound violent or physical when I called them, but I didn't want it to escalate to that point. But like if you see something happening, why would you not do something about it? I will never understand that. Like people fucking suck. Like why don't you give a shit about other people? I just give myself more reasons to hate humans every day. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I feel really good about being able to get videos up consistently for you guys. The like 2 or 3 weeks where I was so inconsistent, I was dying on the inside. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I hate the little underground zits, and with like this fancy camera now, you can see fucking everything. Like I have no secrets anymore. My shitty fake tan, my giant underground zit, my fucked up eyebrow. I have no secrets anymore. You can see it all. Okay, see ya, sorry.